February 2013. A lot was going on for the game studio Jagex at that time. They had just launched their biggest update yet, but it wasn't without its major drawbacks from the upset community.
We're not talking about a tiny little update, we're talking about one of the biggest updates we've ever worked on in the history of the game.
The man speaking is no other than Mod Mark, the lead designer behind this project.
So please go and try it out today and be honest, let us know what you really think.
They had high hopes for this update to help modernize the game when compared to other MMOs at the time. What exactly happened to have caused one of the biggest rejections towards a video game update ever? EOC completely split a player base in half in November of 2012, causing the biggest rollback in history. But there were other updates in that same year, such as School of Fortune being released in that February, and 5 months later Solomon's Store, both of which are worth mentioning. We'll take a look into this whole year, and especially the months leading into the EOC release. But this story actually begins before all of this, so let's find out what happened. RuneScape is no stranger to change. In fact, the game has undergone quite a list of major changes over the years. The game has had 3 complete overhauls, bringing us to 4 iterations of the MMO. Contrary to popular belief, what is now known as RuneScape Classic is not even the original version of the game. In 1998, Andrew Gower had a passion project for a few years at this point known as Devious Mud, the original version of RuneScape. Even though Andrew was the visionary behind the game, his 2 brothers, Ian and Paul Gower, both helped his dream become a reality with their set of skills. There is very little footage of this game, besides this blurry recording from RuneFest back in 2010 and what is shown in the 15 Years of Adventure RuneScape documentary. You see, something crazy was going on at this time.
7, 6.0, 6.0, new AOL version 6.0, we have moved on.
Welcome.
Live your life on the web to the fullest.
Movie ball.
It's like a friend just pops in to say hi.
Email rocks!
Welcome. You've got mail. You've got pictures. You've got goodbye.
The late 90s was a glorious time for the interwebs. Investors were throwing cash at every business that had any relation to the online world. Andrew saw this as a great time to completely overhaul Devious Mud and build a better product to get some money from advertisements to keep his passion project alive. By January of 2001, Andrew completely revolutionized Devious Mud, leading to the creation of what we now know as RuneScape Classic. Despite the immediate game's success upon release, there was a growing issue that started during the development and was only getting worse. The dot-com boom had burst in the spring of 2000, leading to a slow bleed of advertisers across the internet. RuneScape was able to stay afloat for a bit when it came out, but as the game became more popular, keeping the servers online became harder with the decreasing ad revenue. Andrew wasn't particularly business savvy, and had strengthened a relationship with an entrepreneur who he had met a few years earlier at a pub while still attending Cambridge University. This man would change his life and the game forever. In December of 2001, Andrew and his brother Paul officially created Jagex, but alongside would be a new name and a man with a sizable investment. Constant Ted would be joining the business and giving the largest amount of shares. Oh yeah, he'd also be taking on the role as CEO. What really got his attention about RuneScape was the fact that it was playable on a browser, and without any need for software installation. One of his first moves as CEO was to help bring in revenue by rolling out a paid membership service of $5 a month to where you can experience extra content within the game. This was released on February 27th of 2002 and was immediately a hit, garnering more than 2,000 members in the first hour and more than 5,000 by the end of the day, completely blowing out what they needed just to stay afloat. At this point, the game already had more than 1 million free accounts registered and a staff size of only 11. But this new revenue completely changed everything moving forward. On June 11th, 2002, just a few months after the release of membership, Andrew announces that RuneScape's current version is nearly a complete game, and that they have plans to bring again vast changes involving a huge 3D update. The next 15 months were marked a period of transparency, during which Jagex creates a newsletter, began providing communication updates on their website, and reinstated their forums that they had previously removed due to abuse. In the month of December in 2003 was the final moments of an era. RuneScape had more than 5 million accounts created and more than 50 employees. And the project known to the community as the Big 3D Update is finally being released as a beta. Today, we refer to this version of the game as RuneScape 2. If the transition from Devious Mud to RuneScape 1 was considered a significant update, the move to RuneScape 2 completely redefined that standard. In addition to transforming into a 3D adventure game, the combat system was drastically revamped to cater to all players, especially those who enjoyed player vs. player content. Given the magnitude of this change, Andrew wanted to make sure that this would all be well received. In RuneScape Classic, melee combat was most important, with range and magic being secondary factors. RuneScape 2, however, allowed players to choose and develop their own paths and skill sets without facing unintended penalties for neglecting melee. At the time, this was quite innovative, and in retrospect, a key factor that distinguished this game from others. Among all the new updates though, the most renowned addition by Jagex was the Combat Triangle. Players could now choose to be warriors, wizards, or rangers, each with their own strengths and weaknesses against the others. Magic was now weak to ranged attacks, range was weak to melee, and melee was weak to magic. While conversely, magic was strong against melee, melee was strong against range, and range was strong against magic. Over the course of the 4-month beta, excitement built among the players, who appreciated the ongoing communication from Andrew and Jagex. On March 29th of 2004, RuneScape 2 was officially released under the name of just RuneScape, and it was an immediate hit. After a few months, Jagex had also worked out an agreement to place RuneScape on the list of games at miniclip.com, a website at the time that was very popular for Flash player games as well as Java-based games, Java being the code of which RuneScape was written in. With this new deal, the game's popularity tripled to now having more than 15 million accounts created in a very short amount of time. This all helped propel RuneScape into what many consider the game's golden age over those next few following years. With weekly updates introducing new skills, quests, and improved graphics, players were constantly engaged. As a result, the game's popularity soared. In 2008, RuneScape was recognized by Guinness World Records as the world's most popular free, massively multiplayer online role-playing game. With an emphasis on free, of course. Now, this achievement was after the fact that RuneScape had just implemented one of its most notably worst updates at all times. As the game grew, so did its problems with botting and real-world trading. It got so bad that the second half of 2007, Jagex made multiple posts informing everyone of the issues. This continued until they finally removed Wilderness PvP on December 10th of 2007, and a few weeks later they would do the same thing to trading freely among other players. A lot of chaos behind the scenes forced Jagex into these decisions, ending the golden era. Jagex was encountering significant legal challenges due to the widespread use of stolen credit cards to pay for membership on accounts used for botting, which were further peddling the selling of gold and in-game items. Modash provided more insight into this issue during a 2020 interview with Shawnee, sharing his perspective from that period. He highlighted that some developers were aware of the tough decisions being made internally.
But I wasn't too happy working on this stuff because I knew players were going to hate it. And while I was strongly advised that it was necessary for the survival of the studio, and it quite possibly was, given that we were under threat of not being allowed to process card payments anymore. You know, if you're going to lose half your players for them hating an update, you're going to lose all your members if you can't take card payments.
The removal of the wilderness and free trade was so hated among the community that nearly 3 years later, when Jagex put up a poll on whether to restore the features or not, more than 1.2 million players voted to bring them back. Twice. Removing these two features had a huge impact. Killing other players in the wilderness was a very popular activity at the time, as well as trading freely among other players is obviously just expected. Yet somehow these removals aren't even comparable to what was coming in a few years. So where did it all go wrong? We've seen that RuneScape has always embraced change and evolved through many phases. However, everything leading up till now was about to be challenged due to one year in particular, 2012. This year saw the most dense amount of pivotal changes in RuneScape's history, and all of it began with 3 words.
Wheel of Fortune! One, two, three, 4, 5.
I'm sorry, Prairie. You guessed 10, and there were only 5 pig squeals in today's Squeal of Fortune.
On February 28th of 2012, Jagex introduced a new daily activity called Squeal of Fortune, surprising many players since there was no prior notice to the community. Typically, updates were announced weeks or even months in advance. The concept of this new edition was pretty straightforward. Every day, players could spin a wheel for a chance to win a prize, with members allowed 2 spins per day. Despite the low odds of winning something valuable, the community accepted the new feature without much concern, as it didn't seem to likely cause any major disruption. But nearly a month later, on April 2nd, Jagex introduced options to buy additional spins, marking the first instance where players could purchase in-game entities with real money. This sparked several controversies and enraged many players, due to the fact that Squeal of Fortune is now gambling. The backlash was immediate and intense, with riots breaking out in-game. RuneScape has a rich history with in-game riots, which have been a form of legitimate protest recognized by Jagex for years at this point. Mods tried calming down the tensions on the forums, but were met with thousands of replies demanding its removal. Recognizing the potential issue with their existing rules, Jagex quietly changed their regulations 4 days later. They removed this segment from the rules regarding real-world trading. We don't want players to be able to buy their way to success in RuneScape. If we let players start doing this, it devalues RuneScape for others. We feel your status in real life shouldn't affect your ability to be successful in RuneScape. Some players believe this change was driven by new marketing strategies, like the Squeal of Fortune and the Refer a Friend program they were running at that time. However, Mod Maltair stated these updates weren't considered real-world trading because they didn't involve third parties. This just sounded like to those that were upset that Jagex revised the rules to legitimize real-world trading as long as Jagex was the source. And then a few weeks later on May 11th, Jagex announced a significant upcoming update with a beta set to launch on June 25th of 2012. This beta was for the Evolution of Combat, EOC, a major overhaul of the game's combat system that had been teased the previous year. EOC aimed to make combat more interactive and strategic, introducing abilities and a new interface that fundamentally changed how players engaged in battles. The update represented a radical departure from the traditional combat mechanics that had been a staple of the game for years. One particular Jagex employee played a pivotal role in the rollout of Evolution of Combat, and that employee was Mod Mark, the lead designer. He was deeply involved in the development and implementation of this update. Because he was so heavily involved, he was seen as the face of the update. Mod Mark frequently communicated with the community through various forums and videos explaining the benefits and the rationale behind the upcoming changes. Mark was also a very tenured employee at the time, having joined Jagex back in 2003. He was one of the first employees and outlasted 2 of the 3 Gower brothers, including Andrew, as well as Constant Tedder, who had all left around December of 2010. His long tenure and prominent role made him a well-known figure within the RuneScape community by that time. When the Evolution of Combat was introduced, it caused a major split within the RuneScape community. Some players welcomed the fresh approach and added complexity, seeing it as essential for keeping the game modern and engaging. Others, however, felt it deviated too far from the classic gameplay they cherished. This divide marked the beginning of a larger issue. While EOC was primarily focused on updating and improving the game, other changes during this period seemed more profit-driven. This perception was further reinforced on July 17th, when Jagex introduced rune coins in Solomon's store. New avenues for players to spend real money on in-game cosmetic purchases, with rune coins serving as the currency for these transactions. A lot of veteran players could see where this road is heading, and felt betrayed at the efforts Jagex was making to continue pushing these microtransaction updates. In the eyes of Jagex, the company was thriving at the time. Their business was growing, and they had a series of new updates planned for the coming months. A significant milestone for them that summer was achieving over 200 million accounts created. And as for the company itself, it had grown to more than 500 employees, a long way from where the story started. Near the end of August, tensions over micropayments in EOC have died down a bit. However, on August 28th, Jagex released this tweet. For the first time ever, Jagex will be allowing the use of real money for in-game benefits. The backlash on Twitter wasn't even comparable to the forums on multiple websites, not just RuneScape. This was inevitable. It was only a matter of time before Jagex crossed that line between cosmetic item sales. I don't care about the Hunter update that are actually essential to game. They should give you that for free if you're a member. There goes During all that chaos, there was a pretty incredible reply to a user. Quote, I played RuneScape since RuneScape Classic, long before I got hired by Jagex. My personal opinion on microtransactions is entirely predictable. However, I'm on a staff account on Jagex' official forums. All this attention started to get the attention of Mark Gerhard, the CEO. On August 29th of that year, he made a public statement regarding the microtransaction worries, stating, we place immense value in our and your game's integrity, feedback from our community, and continually improving the game experience for all. He also emphasized that Jagex wasn't a company solely interested in profits alone, and quote, I believe we are one of the few game studios in the world that prizes the integrity of the game and health of our community over commercial returns. The 12-paragraph post didn't include a single mention about EOC. The main takeaway is that microtransactions are here to stay. The next day, Jagex released a video, with Mark G announcing an upcoming live Q&A.
I've always said that community feedback is hugely important to us and has always played a really big part in informing what we do in the game next. And I expect probably also what makes this game so special.
It turns out that Jagex was running a Q&A series that occurred every week throughout the month of September, to help ease some of the tension with some of the frustrated players. However, this messaging campaign didn't seem to alleviate much of the concerns among the player base who were upset with the inevitable EOC update. ModMark tried dismissing some worries, emphasizing that the beta was meant to ensure the community's satisfaction, but it was already too late. On September 1st, riots escalated, spreading to multiple world servers, most notably the two most populated servers, the non-member server of World 1 and the member server of World 2. Riots were happening at the usual Falador Square location and the Grand Exchange, the game's marketplace. Riots had been sporadic at this point all summer, but not comparable to these. Ultimately, they temporarily muted all players at the Grand Exchange in World 2 for about an hour, preventing the ability to fully protest. To date, Jagex has never removed the ability to chat in-game when confronted with a riot, or interfered with a riot in any way, something that makes this riot notable. These riots continued for another 2 days, with plans for more protests in the near future. Requests for an older version of RuneScape had been ongoing for almost a year, but they gained significant momentum due to the ongoing riots and growing dissatisfaction with the EOC beta. At that time, a rollback of this magnitude was completely unheard of in the gaming community. It would never be taken seriously. Jagex staff had consistently brushed off these calls, with even ModMark publicly expressing the company's opinion on the matter when asked at the 2011 RuneFest event, and rather strongly shutting down the odds, I might add.
Latvia N14 has sent in a question and asked if there are any plans to make 2004-2007 RS servers just like there are RS Classic servers.
No.
Alright, that's a very short and straightforward answer.
Yes, it is.
Alright, we're not gonna get more out of him, guys.
Jagex proceeded with their weekly Q&A starting on September 9th, heavily screening the questions. Viewers soon learned that the Q&A would be themed. The first week focused on microtransactions, the second week on botting, the third on EOC, and the final fourth week on the future of the game. During the first week, players pressed Mark Gerhard on concerns about the game inching towards pay to win, but he assured them that this wasn't the case. The highlight of the stream, though, however, was his accidental leak about their unannounced Mammoth project, while justifying microtransactions as necessary for beneficial funding to the game.
We're very much focused on building up a bit of a war chest for RuneScape, and as I say, that's going into tech, it's going into talent.
What's the war chest? Sorry, I don't know.
Fighting fund.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that's the first time we've ever had one. You know, it's becoming quite significant, and it's allowing us to start thinking about the future of RuneScape. You know, RuneScape 3, rather than just week by week bit of content here and there. So
have we talked about RuneScape 3 at all yet? Is that the first time you've mentioned it?
I think it might be.
Damn.
In the second week focused on botting, questions about the current controversies were ignored. By the third week focused on EOC, most accepted questions were designed to paint the update positively. However, two overwhelmingly frequently asked questions from previous Q&As finally received some airtime.
So there's a question here from a few people who've asked about having two separate servers, maybe having one that has new combat, new improved combat, and one that has the old school combat.
So it's almost impossible to do something like that.
This question was a follow-up to another that directly contradicted Mark's personal vision for the project.
It is such a big change to the game, so why not make a poll or have a vote based on whether people or how people would like to see the evolution of combat?
Needless to say, the answer wasn't satisfying. In the final week, the Q&A on the future of the game returned to heavily ignoring the underlying issues and concerns players had in large numbers. Many players wanted their game back, whether through reversing EOC, creating a rollback server, or getting rid of the new microtransaction features. These concerns were evident through riots, forums, and social media. Throughout October, Jagex stayed on course with their plans, while players' opinions remained divided. On October 19th, the game's highest-ranked player Suomi announced that he'd be quitting, stating, "I have no trust in Jagex anymore," and lamenting, "It's a shame the game ended up this way." His grievances were mainly about Squeal Fortune, which allowed players to pretty much buy their way to achieving higher levels in the game. The next month was quite hectic, due to Jagex finally announcing the official release date of EOC, November 20th. But on November 9th, Jagex decided to pull everyone's opinions about it. The results revealed a deeply divided player base. 20% definitely preferred it, 20% disliked it, 26% liked both, and 33% were either unsure about it or believed it needed improvements in some way, with 1% having no opinion. It's also worth noting that a significant portion of players had already left by then. The remaining upset players vowed to quit the game, but to make sure they keep protesting until their version of the game was officially offline. However, the decision to go ahead was already made, and any further complaints or outlashes were to be ignored. What was about to come would be the biggest pivotal moment in RuneScape's history, and nothing short of expected. So what happened after EOC's release? In the following months, Jagex lost a substantial amount of players. The summer of 2012 had an estimated number of 1.3 million paying members, excluding bots of course. After EOC's release, membership recorded to be under 875,000 by November 27th, a week after the release. These numbers are just approximation from available data, as the actual numbers have never been released, but the impact was obviously clear the next year. On January 23rd of 2013, Mark Gerhardt apologized to the community in an official post, admitting, "We've not always explained ourselves well, nor listened to you well enough, and for that, I'd like to apologize." Regarding microtransactions, he stated, "These additions were, and are, vital for growing RuneScape. They allowed us to double the size of RuneScape's team, and keep up the near-weekly game updates." And on the topic of EOC, he admitted, "Despite the beta, it's clear we didn't fully appreciate the extent to which everyone would have to adapt to the new gameplay." He ended his 9-paragraph post promising to make the players at the center of any move going forward. Quote, "We are very keen at making 2013 your year." This post came just 3 weeks after Jagex had shut down a privately made 2006 RuneScape server that had amassed about 500,000 accounts. A popular player named SoWrecked saw Mark Gerhardt's post and used it to support his arguments in a Change.org petition. He goes over the fact that players have continued to quit, even after giving the new updates a chance. He also went over the fact that the unofficial 2006 RuneScape version exceeded the amount of players that the legitimate RuneScape had itself. The main point of this petition, though, was to bring back an official rolled-back version of the game. This gained so much traction that the efforts became known to someone in particular. As the face of VOC, ModMark directly addressed the community with the forum post on February 1st, acknowledging the strong passion for a pre-2012 version of the game. He reiterated Mark Gerhardt's mission: "We're committed to making this year something special, and we really want to look into those ideas that you feel most strongly about." He followed this up with, "Researching and exploring these ideas take time. With all the other great content we have planned this year, what we can promise right now is to look into these things with all the energy and enthusiasm we have." For the past 14 months, a small group of Jagex developers felt conflicted, knowing they shared many of the players' sentiments. Mod Ash, one of 3 employees brave enough to voice their opinions, expressed his willingness to work directly on a potential second server creation. At the time, many at Jagex saw that this idea was a pointless step, believing that the efforts would be wasted since they thought players would lose interest after 6 months. During this time, Jagex staff spent a week searching for a viable solution, as salvageable save states of the game were scarce. However, on February 13th, Mark Gerhardt announced in a post that after many hours of effort, they had found a verifiable working version of the game, just before the end of the Golden Era. This whole movement was a far-fetched one, due to the fact that Jagex had vastly changed their entire infrastructure since then. Mark G mentions, "There will be a substantial amount of work involved to get these old school servers back up and running again. However, if enough people support this project, this will be neither unachievable nor a hindrance to the main game. And just like the poll based on the return of the wilderness and free trade, we will be running a similar poll letting you, our valued customers, decide the fate of Old School RuneScape." The concept of this poll is a bit different than any before. yet still simple. Starting on February 15th, a 2-week poll would take place, where players could either opt to vote yes or choose to not participate at all. The more votes obtained, the more support Old School servers would receive from Jagex, and most importantly, only paying members can participate, with a minimum of 50,000 votes needed. Jagex had done its part. Now it's time for the community to finish theirs.
Hey guys, what's up? It's the Third Night here, and I've got some absolutely epic news for you guys.
I'm going to be talking about RuneScape because they're bringing back the old version.
If you are looking at my screen right now, you could see that there is a poll.
2007 Old School RuneScape. You vote.
Yep, this is legit. They're finally considering 2007 RuneScape back.
But we need like so many votes, so...
Please vote.
If you meet a certain criteria, they will bring back 2007 Scape because that's the only one they could find of August 2007.
The vote will be unlocked on Friday 15th of February and it will be available for 2 weeks.
But I also encourage you to vote yes because there's no reason to not vote yes.
1% guys, 1,468 people. Let's refresh it, see how many are there. Yes, we're gonna do this guys, come on, I believe in us.
And it is nearly 50,000 votes already, and then 07 Scape is back.
Well guys, the vote is up and it looks like we've smashed level 1, which was 50,000 votes. Aw man.
I need you to vote. And if you've already voted, get your friends to vote.
Okay, we have over 70,000 votes. We are 9% there right now.
Anybody who stumbles across this video and can afford membership, get it now while, get it now.
That's right. This blows my mind a little bit.
So let's refresh the page. Yay! Keep up the good work, guys, and thanks for voting.
We passed 50,000. Now we still have a long journey to go.
You can come in here and vote for RuneScape 2007 to come back.
Level 2, 250k or more. We can definitely achieve this. It'll only cost $5 extra. You get a small development team.
143,000 though, so it's going up a little bit slower than it used to be.
And all the pushing that we've done to get old system pre-EOC servers back implemented into RuneScape has finally worked.
Jagex added a voting interface in-game and also a banner on the login screen.
And the thing is, it's not close to the 500,000. We will pass through 50,000, I can guarantee you that, but it's not enough, and we need to do more.
Now we need every single person to vote.
I just want to say, keep on voting.
Right now it's at 214,000, and yeah.
We still have around 8 days to go. If we can get around 500k.
With just 7 days remaining in the 2-week poll, Jagex released this behind-the-scenes video on February 22nd, 2013.
Absolutely, and actually, in fact, if we exceed 500,000 votes, there won't be any additional membership fee either. We've seen so much activity from the community, veterans re-engaging. The team are trying to match that dedication, passion, by working around the clock to bring these servers back as soon as we can. It should be today.
Really, today?
Yeah, we're hoping everyone can have early access from today.
That's pretty amazing. So 2007 is actually available to play today.
We're hoping those veteran players that have asked for this and voted for this will come back and make it that game special again,
The poll results ended at 449,351 votes, about 50,000 shy of the next tier. However, Jagex was deeply inspired and decided to proceed with some of the 500,000 mark benefits. In addition to allowing a small team of developers, which included Mod Ash, and a basic level of maintenance, Jagex honored the perks of no extra membership fee, committing to fight against bots and gold farmers, as well as most importantly, allowing the players to vote on exactly what they want to happen in the game moving forward, every step of the way. This documentary may not cover every single aspect of what truly led to this historic gaming event, but one thing is undeniable. The driving force behind the creation of a rollback version of this game was the passionate community of players who loved RuneScape, as it was in the days when they first played it. While this particular story has come to an end, the story of Old School RuneScape, as a whole, is far from over.
friggin' day. 10 billion sleep later. Oh my god, we made it 75 hours, guys.
Oh my god, dude! Dude, they're all waiting for you. Holy shit! Dude!
What?
Oh my god, dude!
What is this?
That is some impressive coordination, you know? I won't even lie. Dude, RuneScape is something else.
The Mauritania-only Theater of Blood just isn't possible. Or is it?
Let's go!
You got the final hit. Settle's got the final hit. Settle's got the final hit.
Dude!
When it registers.
When it registers mine! What the fuck? Look how laggy it is! The hit didn't even spawn!